Okay, guys, so welcome everyone today. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name's Thomas Fraser-Bacon. I'm the marketing director here at Allsee. Today's webinar is Allsee's 2022 Roundup, Trends, Triumphs and Teasers. So it's obviously an end of year roundup. In the past, we've kind of done this roundup in various different ways. We've written blog posts. Last year, I had a sit-down interview with our MD, Bolly, who many of you know as well. This year is the first year we're doing this as a webinar to try and make it more kind of interactive and engaging. So I hope you find it insightful and useful. So yeah, without any further ado, I'm going to introduce my colleague Cameron Mills, who's our UK sales manager, who's going to be the key speaker for today. So over to you, Cameron.
Thanks, Tom. I'm really looking forward to today's webinar. We've done quite a few, and I'm sure those of you that have joined for the 7th, 8th time have seen my face a lot. But this is one I particularly look forward to because it's a chance to look back on the projects and successes of the year and also what we're going to be doing in the future. I think during 2022, it's been an interesting year. I think we can see 2021 as kind of the emergence from COVID. 2022 is the only, I think for many companies, the first real year. We don't count COVID times. COVID times was a very weird time for everyone in the world. So, we're now back into the real world and we're getting started with that. We've got quite a lot that we're going to cover today. I'll try not to keep everyone for too long, but quite a few kind of exciting announcements and just the things we want to bring up. I know that many of our partners have had great successes this year and it's been fantastic. We've seen excessive growth from many, a lot of emergence of new partners as well. And we want to kind of cast back to that as well, but also shout about the things that we're going to do in the future and get us all geared up and ready for the coming year, because as this year has been so great, that means next year needs to be even better. So we need to get a good start on that. I won't go through all of what we've got here because it was all from the email shot we sent out, but just suffice to say, we've got quite a lot to cover today. It should be quite an interesting webinar. If you want to go to the next one, Megan. So just talking about our webinars, we've done a good few of them throughout this year. And that's actually been quite a transition. We've done webinars historically as a company, and we've always liked our webinars. But following COVID and as in-person meetings became less common, we still like to have them where we can. We've got a great showroom here in Birmingham. It's available to all of our partners, and we do really encourage getting your customers in here. I think I've said this on previous webinars, but getting a customer physically in front of a screen is an incredibly useful selling technique. But also, webinars have become a new tool in our belt. And I feel like we look at a list here, and though there are quite a few, I can anticipate we'll likely do a lot more next year. I quite enjoy doing them as well, so I'm going to be pushing for more and more webinars and more and more topics. A lot of the webinars that you'll see on this list we've done on the back of feedback from our partners. What do you want to learn? Where are you seeing problems in the market? Where are you perhaps not so familiar? For newer partners, the video or webinar was specifically very useful as you're kind of growing into approaching a new industry. Touchscreen CMS, many of our partners that have even been using My Signage Portal for many years might not have familiarity with the touch element of that because they've got such a fully hosted solution for non-touch. So just branching out into those extra areas. So please do, if you have any feedback, any ideas that you want to touch on, anything specifically you want us to do, I'm hoping we can do some slightly more wacky and cool stuff throughout next year. I'm sure I'm going to give marketing and tech support a headache with the amount of stuff I'm going to want to do, but we're definitely going to do it. So look forward to next year. We'll move on to the next slide.
And just before we move on, Cameron, just on a couple of points, you made a really good point at the start about obviously we're seeing kind of less demand for in-person meetings, but I'd still encourage all of our partners in the UK and EU and overseas as much as possible to really make use of the fact that we've got, as Cameron mentioned, obviously the showroom and the meeting rooms in the UK office and our office in Belgium as well. And they're completely open for you guys to use. I really think that we don't want to kind of lose that in-person connection. And obviously Cameron mentioned bringing your customers along, but even if it's just to kind of come by and see the newest products that we've got, since your last in-person visit, and kind of, really get to grips with them, see them, physically touch them and see the quality in person. I think, it's so effective and nothing can really replace that. Another point to make is if there are any webinars on here, like I said earlier, there's a lot of newcomers on today's webinar. If there are any webinars here, any topics that you want us to send you the PowerPoint for and the recording for, let us know. We've got all these recorded, and get in touch with your account manager or myself, or you can just email webinar@allsee-tech.com. And the same for any suggested topics. All of these topics were based on, feedback that we've had from our partners. So any suggestions that you've got, we're more than happy to accommodate those.
Great, fantastic. We move on then. So, of course, Allsee has a large array of products. We now have over 100 SKUs, but amongst that is also our software offering, and that's mysignageportal.com. Now, My Signage Portal has always been an accessory to our hardware. It's been there to help us sell screens. It's never been a clear focus. It's just been something there. It's there to help win projects. It's there to help sell the other products. We shifted gears a little bit during 2022. We made significant investment in our software development capabilities. In fact, I would believe more than tripled the size of our software development team and expanded their skill sets drastically. So beyond into multiple different disciplines and tool sets so that we have effectively a catch-all for whatever we need to do. With that in mind, we've made quite a few adjustments, improvements, and upgrades to the software. And I think an important point to touch on is that we don't change price. So the cost that we put out to you is the same, but we're still making these continual improvements to the software. A few of those things have come off the back. In fact, most of those things, like Tom was saying earlier, have come off the back of feedback. Advanced remote control. So that's something that we brought in January and allowed much more granular interface remotely with a screen so that you can now do things like rotate a screen remotely. I remember I've been with Allsee just shy of 6 years now. I remember early days and being on the phone so many times, walking people through how to switch it with the remote, being able to do that remotely from both a partner perspective for you to be able to help your customer, but also from our own tech support perspective. That's a much shorter interaction where they say it's in the wrong orientation. Okay, now it's not. We can make things a lot simpler for the end user, and that's really the goal.
Just what on that same point, Cameron, just sorry to interrupt, but there's also obviously, I think many of our partners, I know there are a few on today's call that have their own preferred third-party CMS platform, and we have no immediate plans to change supporting third-party software. However, I would advise all of our partners that do that to really take a look at what are the advantages of really using a fully integrated solution where the hardware and the software are being developed in conjunction with one another and really allow for this advanced remote control, as well as the next point that Cameron's probably going to mention about the added touchscreen playlist analytics.
So the next point, like Tom was saying, touchscreen playlist analytics is something that I've spoken to several partners about for many years. I'm sure this probably dates back to 2018, these conversations. And now we're bringing this in, and this is allowing you to analyze actually the user's journey through a touch playlist so that you can understand what things are working. From an advertising perspective, if you've got specific products, you can go through and go, well, everyone's clicking on this. So it's either that the product is particularly popular or that location on the screen is particularly popular, and you can start to come into a little bit of the psychology there. It can be a really powerful and useful tool. Moving on from there, we've also got the new My Signage Portal website. Now that links in with our new user interface for My Signage Portal. So as we came to upgrade the user interface, we brought the website along it, kind of brought it into the 21st century, modernized and just kept us to the forefront of CMS platform providers. So that's been a big focus. One point that we're going to be expanding there is the video tutorials as well. So we're looking into expanding that out to cover as much as we possibly can to mean that you can offer as much resource as possible to your customers. Already, you can become pretty much an expert in My Signage Portal in about 45 minutes, but we hope to grow that out to the more kind of fringe uses as well as we go throughout next year. This was quite a big thing. We launched 4K support via My Signage Portal for our larger screens, that's 65, 75 and 86-inch large format commercial monitors, but also our brand new freestanding 65-inch digital poster, which I'll talk about in a little bit more detail a little later in the presentation, but it just means that you've now got the ability to deploy 4K content. I know we've had projects over the years where we've had to bring in third-party solutions or use computers, and now that means that for those large solutions, we can just do it natively. And then YouTube zones. So I've always talked about the web zone on our My Signage portal as a catch-all. It's if the software can't do something, chuck whatever you want into a web zone and you can kind of add that functionality. Now, a really common use for that was displaying YouTube videos, YouTube Live. So now we've integrated specific functionality. So rather than using the web zone, you can deploy an actual YouTube zone, and that's going to give you control over looped playback, where it starts. You get a little bit more granular control of how that's actually going to deploy and how that's going to be handled by the software as well. Okay. We can move on from there. So what's coming next year? Like I said, in terms of how we've expanded our software development team, we have a hell of a lot more capability and capacity compared to what we had before. So I'm showing you right now just a few things that we've got on the roadmap. There are little things that we go, these are nice to haves, and they're not entirely solidified to the roadmap yet, but this is ever changing, and it's ever changing based on the feedback that we get from our partners. You know, you guys know the customers, you're speaking to the customers, you know what they need and where we should be going in the market, so you can offer that incredibly useful feedback. A lot of these changes are coming on the back of this feedback. One, I'm sure many people on the webinar are going to be very happy about, the integration of license expiration reminders. So I will admit, our system for tracking licenses has always been a little bit antiquated. So now in the background, we've been working tirelessly, the software development team specifically been working tirelessly to bring this into an integration with My Signage portal so that you can have, you know, a reminder 1 month before a license cuts out, your customer can potentially have that reminder to contact you. And when we think about these subscriptions, they are as close to a passive income as you possibly can get without it being a passive income. It's effectively, if our system is sending the reminder to the customer and telling them to contact you, and they're just saying, yeah, I'd like to spend some money, please. I think that's the best, you know, scenario that you could ever hope for in sales. So we're really hoping to make things as streamlined and easy as possible for both yourselves and for the end user as well. So this is little known. We actually brought out an API. For those of you that aren't familiar with API, API stands for Application Programming Interface. And in very basic terms, it just means that the third-party software can control and manipulate My Signage portal, or specifically your account. So that means that you can utilize an API to send commands from one system to another. A really great example of that, which is something that we're actually developing for the API, I'm going to speak about in a moment, is perhaps you wanted to have one of our touchscreens that's perhaps running an application that you put together with a couple of different video options. And as you touch the touchscreen, it could trigger content to change on a different screen. That's something that we have nearly developed. It's in alpha at the moment, but that's something that we'll have nearly ready via the API. So the API is really powerful tools to bring in those third-party or your own custom solutions as well. And that links into with lift and learn and external sensors. So we have been keeping an eye on where the market's going with this, and, you know, especially at events and such, these things are becoming more and more popular. In the background, we're working on them. So we expect that throughout next year, we'll be making announcements of new sensors that will be compatible with our systems via third parties, and also lift and learn sensors, motion sensors, buttons, all of these things that are going to allow you to create interactive experiences for your clients. So we are taking in that feedback. We are looking at what the market's doing as well. But please, this is a small snapshot of what we can do. If you've got these projects, bring them to us, bring them to your account manager, and we can look into how we can help and how we can grow into those markets and grow into helping you win those projects. Just to expand on that a little bit, Cameron. Yeah, so any feedback that you guys have got, and any features that you'd like added to My Signage portal, whether it's for, you know, to get a big project across the line, or just general comments that you get from some of your customers, let us know. They'll all be added to the roadmap. Obviously, the priority order will depend on scale of projects and qualifying those projects, or the volume of the same requests that we're getting. But please do let us know. It's the only way we're going to continue to improve our software as well as our hardware. Excellent. So looking back across the year, we have had a good number of product launches. Now, historically, we've always been producing brand new products. It's from scratch, from the drawing board, we've produced a new product. But one focus that we really placed on 2022 was not just bringing out new products, because to be honest, we've touched on a lot of markets and there's only so many ideas, so we definitely need more feedback, but also improving our products. A focus that I definitely mentioned on several webinars in the past is that we as a company have not changed our prices, at least not increased our prices for the past 5 years at least. And with that in mind, we've also improved many of our products whilst keeping them at the same price point. You'll notice a lot of the products on this list are saying next generation, meaning that they are the latest iteration of that product. And we've made many improvements there. Just to briefly take a look at this list, super slim freestanding double-sided posters. That's coming off the back of our hanging double-sided posters, which were exhibited at Integrated Systems Europe for several years, and many partners were offering feedback saying, are you going to bring out a freestanding version? So we did. So we brought that to market as well. Then as we've moved into upgrading our products, we've got the freestanding digital posters where they've become incredibly slim now. We've brought the Wi-Fi aerial inside, so it's integrated, keeps it all neat, lower risk of damage as well. It's capacitive touch for the touch model too. So we've standardized. It used to be that our touch and non-touch looked differently because we were utilizing infrared touch. Now we've standardized, so a customer can have non-touch and touch devices throughout a building and have them all standardized to one aesthetic. PCAP self-service kiosk. So that was something that we were new to the market for last year. And so it was certainly a learning experience for us as a manufacturer, and we were figuring out how to move best in the market there. We've made several improvements, and again, we haven't changed the cost. So the PC has been significantly improved in spec. We changed the printer. So we were manufacturing a printer of kind of custom manufacturing. What we realized is in these industries, the reliability is above all else. So we've standardized to an Epson printer, one of the most common in the market. So it just means that we can swap that out nice and easy. Your drivers are coming from Epson. We keep everything as standardized as possible. 75-inch ultra high brightness monitor. For any of you, especially in the UK, who want to come and visit our showroom, we just put a 75-inch in the room behind me. In fact, that Tom's sat in right now. It looks fantastic. We've mounted it on a double pole solution from our partner BTEC. It's really a great thing. If you're trying to sell a big, beautiful screen for someone's window, get them in here. I can assure you, you'll make that sale. We have had that product in the past, but we're now putting a lot more focus on it in 2022 because our stock levels are actually more than the inquiries we were getting. When we first released this product, it was a case of we were selling them before they even got here. So now finally we've got some in stock and we can actually continue the sales without pre-selling them. 65-inch 4K freestanding digital poster. This is a behemoth. I wish I'd moved it around here because it's bigger than me. It is 4K 65-inch version of our freestanding digital poster. Again, tempered 5mm glass on the front. Big, beautiful, loads of space for vinyl branding. We can help with that, or of course you can offer it as an additional service to your customers. Really interesting product, and I anticipate it's going to be a very popular one, especially going into next year.
I definitely, sorry to interrupt again, Cameron, I definitely recommend that being one of the driving factors of any in-person visits, as well as the 75-inch ultra high brightness, which is in front of me here now. As Cameron mentioned, it looks incredible. The 65-inch 4K freestanding digital poster, you really have to see it in person. It's a real showstopper. As far as I'm aware, we're the only ones in the UK stocking a 75-inch 4K freestanding model. In the past, we've done them, as bespoke orders. Now we've got them in stock. So really, try and come and see it in person because you won't regret it. It's a real showstopper.
One point I'd like to make on that product as well is a really popular use for that would be in, for instance, shopping centres. And what I've seen over the past few years is that commonly they are thinking in print terms, and they'll be looking at saying, I want a digital 6-sheet. And they'll be looking at, okay, I want a 6-sheet. Well, oftentimes the project may be one with a 55-inch, but they've had to step down to a product they didn't really want. Whereas the 65-inch is going to be incredibly close to that 6-sheet format, whilst keep maintaining a 16:9 aspect ratio too. So you're just bringing it more in line with what the customer's looking for too. Moving on from there, our push share V2 dongle. Again, a lot of this came off of feedback. So we slimmed down the product. We've made it a lot neater. Now, for most devices, it will run solely from a HDMI port. It will gather power from the HDMI port, so USB will not be needed for power. It will still be needed for if you want to pass the touch interaction back to the screen, then you're going to need that USB cable plugged in. But we've generally made some improvements to that product as well. Our next generation outdoor A board, so that has been an incredibly popular product, especially during COVID as everything kind of moved outside. And now that events are coming back, it's becoming popular for use indoors as well. Again, from feedback and from learnings from that product, we've made improvements to its temperature threshold and handling, both in the LCD panel, and its paintwork, its general design. And based on partner feedback as well, we made improvements to the sliding lock mechanism on the bottom so that we reduce the chance of that ever catching on a surface too. And then just not a screen, but an honorable mention, because this has been very popular since we brought it out. We have provided pop-up brackets for a long time, especially for video walls, but often used for screens in a recess. This year, we released a new version of that product, which mounted for either landscape or portrait, whereas we used to have them as separate products. Now, we've recently spoken on social media about how we sit in the market for that. We are definitely the lowest cost. And looking at the product myself as it arrived from the factory, I'm genuinely impressed with many of the improvements that we made to that product. There's a lot of things that I looked at and going, oh, okay, we solved that. Oh, so a good instance of that is many times with pop-up brackets, when I would push them, I'd click one side out, but not the other. So now we've made that central, so that will never happen. It's just all these little things that we're always thinking about and always making those improvements on. Tom, do you want to move on to the next? So this is what I'm sure most people are on the call for. What's coming next year? So there's quite a few interesting ones. I'm sure there'll be more to come. This is just what we've planned this year, from this year for next year. So outdoor battery A board. Now, don't worry for those of you that have utilized it for projects for indoor use. We are going to be having two versions of this product. So we'll be maintaining the 700 candela use product, and we're also going to release a 1500 candela version of this product. So that's going to mean it's going to be better suited for outdoors, it's going to be even brighter in that 1500 candela, but then we see a lot of use case indoors, in which case potentially your customer is going to want to benefit from a longer battery life, from a lower brightness, and so we'll be maintaining that 700 candela range. Some of you may remember the indoor version, which kind of looked like a prototype, because in a way it was our first foray into a battery powered screen, and so we discontinued that product, moved into the outdoor able, because for one, we could offer it at a lower cost than the indoor display, despite the fact that it was a far superior product. This is something we've talked about for years, and we're going to finally pull the trigger. 4K external media player. Now, a large driving force behind why we're doing this is as we put more focus onto indoor LED, and we'll talk about that in a little bit later. As we put more focus onto that, we've seen requirements for larger and larger indoor LED screens. And when you're doing that in a very fine pitch, you reach higher than full HD pretty damn quickly. So 4K media players become needed. And now that we have the support on my Signage portal for 4K content, it's necessary for us to move in this direction too. Another element that we will be looking for in our external media player is we are also looking to bring the Android version up to at an absolute minimum the same as what our standard screens are, which is now 7.1, but we do plan on a little bit higher as well, which is going to be a useful tool. That's going to mean that if our screen doesn't offer the Android version you need at 7.1, we could potentially bring in our external media player at a higher Android version and solve that problem there. Now, LED, indoor LED, we'll go into a lot more detail on a further slide, but just talking about outdoor. Indoor, I really feel like has thrived in a massive way. The growth that we saw this year was around 2,000%. Absolutely crazy. I hope to continue that into the coming years. But outdoor LED, we didn't see the same. And that's because I don't feel we've put the same focus on that. Our focus on indoor, we've got a fantastic grounding. We've done some great projects on indoor. The next frontier is outdoor. And so expect announcements in Q1 and Q2 of next year for us to be saying that we are going to be improving on the resolution of our outdoor LED and also moving to stocking that product. So that's going to mean that even for outdoor LED projects, you're going to have to win them quickly. You're going to be able to solve that problem where perhaps your competitors can't. And I've got a quick announcement where I wanted to do a bit of a show and tell for the next one. This is an early prototype of our new remote control. Now, a lot of our partners that have been with us for a long time will be very happy to hear about this. So again, I think if we're talking about feedback, this is going to be the main feedback we've ever received and been a big focus for us. It's taken us a while, but we're anticipating that in the early quarters of next year, we'll start shipping products with this new remote. So the changes that we've made, the biggest one is the IR Blaster is several times more powerful than our previous remote. So that means that you're going to get a hell of a lot better responsiveness from the screen, and you're not going to have to move the remote around to try and figure out where the sensor's attaching. Also, you'll notice if I bring it close to the camera, you'll notice we've made it a lot less complicated. So there is now no number pad because you don't need it. You select and use the arrow keys. And one thing that we noticed, especially from tech support, is that as we're going, especially to younger generations, when you say press stop, they go, huh? What button's that? Because of a lack of experience with VCR players. So we have made the button say stop. So we're going to make tech support and ease of use incredibly easy. So that's I'm really excited about that, and that's going to be coming very soon. Updated digital signage app, that kind of links in with this a little bit. So we are now not beta test isn't the right word because we've already done extensive testing from within our company. We've done testing to figure out all of the major bugs, but we're now starting to roll out a new UI for our Android app. Now, this is going to be coming from our ultra high brightness screens and our double-sided ultra high brightness screens. That's our first batch. So the first batch of screens that are going to run that UI will be those products. And then as we move into later quarters next year, we will be moving into the UI across all of our screens as well. So it's very familiar. A lot of how the UI is used is near identical. In fact, I gave the sales team training on this the other day, and I said this is going to be like 5 minutes because it's very similar. We've just made things easier. We've simplified the menus. We've hidden a lot of the little settings that people used to mess with, end users or mess with it trying to fix it and actually just break it more. So we hid them behind advanced settings. And one really useful feature that I like, we added the machine ID to the homepage. So if a customer just presses stop, you can instantly see the serial number. I mean, from our tech support perspective alone, that is a game changer, and it's going to be the same for you guys as well. Okay, if we move on to the next one. Right, so let's talk about the best performing products of 2022. A lot of them have been continuations of our key products. So network digital menu boards is no surprise. Ever since we released that product, I believe it was back here around 2017 that we released it. That was something that's always been popular. We know where that's going into. Largely, again, because of the name, it's been used as network digital menu boards. But then it's also been used in other circumstances. It is a very cost-effective way to utilize our CMS and have a synchronized screen. In fact, I'm not sure if they want me to announce it, but I'm going to do it anyway. The marketing team have been working on a spec sheet which calls it by a different name, because quite a few partners have requested that we have an alternative option where you don't have to call it a network digital menu board. Because, for instance, if you're using it for reception, it doesn't make a lot of sense to call it a menu board. It causes a bit of confusion with the customer. So we are working on releasing that as well. So that's been something that's been quite big for us. Ultra high brightness professional monitors. Again, this has been no shock. We made massive improvements to this product, and we're still making improvements to this product. It's something we're constantly focusing on. But when we released the latest range, we brought it up to 3,500 candela. Our stock went crazy. I mean, as I said, I've been with the company a very long time. When I started just shy of 6 years ago, there is absolutely no chance we would have stocked the 75-inch. If I said to Bolly, can we get a few of these in stock? He said, are you crazy? These are absolutely massive. But now, I checked yesterday, we've got 40 of the 75-inch in stock. You imagine the space that takes up. This is something that means we can help you win these really big, beautiful projects, and you can deliver in a lead time that no one is going to expect. So this is something that we've seen immense growth from. The Slimline Pro advertising displays is a slight change of the name of our Slimline advertising displays because we made quite a few improvements and we want to shout about that. Talking about how we've improved our products without changing the price. We've slimmed down the bezel considerably. We've slimmed down the overall product. We've just overall generally made improvements to the aesthetic of the Slimline Pro advertising display. So that is from the 22-inch all the way up to 55-inch. We didn't make these changes to the 19-inch. Didn't make a lot of sense. We will likely in the future discontinue 19-inch because 22-inch is so close, and we still have quite a few in stock of the 19-inch. Hanging double-sided advertising displays, so we've made numerous upgrades for this, and it's been really, really popular. We've seen many rollouts, including some large coffee chains where we've done custom colors for them, excuse me, and that's just showing off our capabilities as a manufacturer. Being able to go bespoke to meet the needs of the project and fulfill that means you can capture these rollouts for large brands as well, utilizing our products. Android PCAP touchscreens have been really interesting. So this is something where we've seen the most new uses of a product has come from when we released our Android PCAP touchscreens. And that's brought about new partnerships as well. New softwares that are being used on our screens. In fact, right at the start of this, I noticed that one of them is on this called Giles at Cloud Shelf. That's been a really interesting endeavor where Cloud Shelf has been utilized as a Shopify add-on to bring a Shopify kind of marketplace into the store on a kiosk using our touchscreen. These things are coming, and it's just really expanding the use of these products. We're seeing virtual walkarounds. We're seeing these types of software packages to simplify bringing these kiosk solutions into the storefront as well. It's really expanding, and we're seeing a lot of different use cases for this range. So it's been really interesting on that.
One thing that's not featured on here, guys, which I'll just mention because it's not a single range, but our mains powered outdoor displays, so that OW and OT, touch and non-touch, not including the outdoor A board, but all of those wall-mounted and freestanding outdoor touchscreens, when combined, make up just over 13% of our total sales this year. So even though it's not included here, our outdoor ranges are still rapidly growing. So I definitely recommend, again, if you're not already heavily promoting our outdoor displays, please do so, because this is definitely an area of the market that we're noticing still growing at a rapid rate.
Excellent. We can move on from there. And then just talking about those product launches. Now, I won't go into too much detail on a lot of these because these are the top product launches that we saw, but I talked about this briefly on the previous slide in terms of what these releases were. Now, a lot of the functionality of these I've talked about in terms of how we've improved. I won't kind of repeat over myself, but I do want to put some focus on that indoor LED as well. This is something that we've seen immense growth in. And also, marketing is going to kill me because I forgot to put it on LinkedIn. I'm going to do it straight after this webinar, I promise. But I actually wrote a blog about our LED and how we're helping our partners to educate themselves, educate their end users, and make things as simple as possible for a product that used to be really complicated. This used to be something that you had to be an expert in to even offer. We've helped, we feel, at least to make that happen and make it really easy to actually deploy a solution like this. I think we'll step on from here as it's largely repeating what we talked about earlier. Oh, Tom, you've muted yourself.
Sorry, thanks, Cameron. One other thing to add here, guys, obviously we've got indoor LED here. Cameron mentioned earlier that compared to last year's sales, we've seen just over 2,000% growth for DV LED, which is kind of in line with a recent Future Source 2022 Global LED Display Market Report. And they're expecting the global DV LED market to be worth $19.5 billion by 2026, growing at a compound rate of 21%. So again, this is definitely an area that if you're not already investing in, please do so. That kind of leads me on nicely to the next slide, really, because I wanted to kind of put a spotlight on one of our partners that have done particularly well over the last few years and really exemplify a lot of the points we're making in today's webinar, including kind of starting to do more DV LED installations, kind of focusing on more DV LED projects. This partner is kind of, I want to put a spotlight on them as our partner of the year. And they are Pick Solution. And I'm going to hand over for a couple of minutes to Gary Coates, who's the sales manager, just to give his kind of input and insight from a kind of partner's point of view. Gary, if you'd like to take the mic.
All right. Good afternoon. Gary here from Pick Solution. Shall I just give a quick intro to who we are?
Please do so, Gary. Yes.
Yeah, so we're a company that was established around 1990. And before the event of CGI to transfer to Bureau, we got into supplying silicon graphics workstations, farms. We were into stereo projection, and then 10 years ago we got into digital signage. And then not long after we got into that, we started partnering with Allsee in 2014. What do we like about working with Allsee? They're approachable, friendly, and very supportive. So picking up on some of the things that Tom and Cameron have mentioned earlier is we find the pre-sales support is really very useful to us, especially in gathering sales and solidifying sales as well. So what we've done more recently is the demo facilities. I would say this to anybody. Demo facilities you've got there, guys, are brilliant. We bring in customers sometimes, and it's like watching a child in a sweet shop. They just don't know where to turn and what product to pick up first. So really good value to do. The other thing that we also find really useful is evaluating. So being able to test our clients' software applications and such. These are all the things that we are able to offer, and we take them up on that. So they're very powerful pre-sales tools. On the post-sales side of things, we also get a lot of help and support from Allsee. So tech support goes without saying. We're always in. The guys there will probably know we're one of the most painful people to talk to because we ask the most challenging questions, only put on us by our clients as well. We also like to mention fantastic training facilities as well. So and that's not just on Allsee products, specifically hardware, but also on MSP. So MSP has been mentioned before. Very powerful tool. We like My Sonny's Portal, and we like where it's going. It's a really good product. The other things that we like with Allsee, working with Allsee, is you've got the ability to be able to sell a brand. So Allsee now is actually getting, as you guys will probably already said, is getting to get a big name in the market. But we're also able to sell Allsee as a vanilla brand as well, where people are more interested in working with pick solution themselves and not necessarily what the brand is. They go on our recommendation. So that's something else that we find really powerful working with you guys at Allsee. As we like just to pick up on some of the points that were being mentioned by Cameron and Tom regarding what products. What we've been pushing, but I suppose, and the mainstay of our product push is we do a lot with outdoor totems and kiosks. So some of these are quite big beasts as well, because not only do we deal with single-sided units, but we also work with double-sided. So if anybody's seen a 65-inch touchscreen outdoor totem, imagine that double up. You're looking at somewhere near 400 kilos of bit of kit, which is quite an impressive piece of kit when you're trying to lift and install these. So we do a fair amount of those, as well as outdoor wall mounts. We've got a project just recently which I'll go into some of the markets that we talk about as well in verticals, but we're just doing one for a local authority, recycling plants, and we're installing an 86-inch screen there to actually show people where they actually go to dispose of relevant products. So local authorities and local corporations are getting into high tech this year to show people how things work. Indoor hybrids, as was touched on earlier, these are a massive product for us. We use these an awful lot in fast food. It's one of the big markets for ourselves. So throughout COVID and lockdown, we did an awful lot of business with a lot of South Asian gentlemen who actually thought, how the hell do we get punters into premises with a hybrid screen, and how do we do that? We do that working with a partner like Pick Solution, supplying Allsee products. So that's something that sort of has kept us going through COVID, is people investing, seeing the ability of investing into ultra hybrids. Digital A board, you touched on it earlier. Brilliant little product. We absolutely love this. This goes into quite a few applications. We use it in some applications which I think it wasn't designed for, but use it for both indoor and outdoor. Very interesting product, and I'm interested to hear where that product is going in regards to brightness levels and new product development next year. Another product which we're seeing big requirements for is your indoor touchscreen console kiosks. So these are the ones that are inclined. We find these quite interesting for use in like wayfinding applications. So we've worked on a number of projects recently. One was for a particular hospital, which is actually to enable people to find and where certain areas are within the hospital itself. We also worked on a recent one at Canary Wharf, which was for a smart building, which had these particular devices on every single floor to enable you to find where hotspot desking is, toilet facilities, all sorts of things like this. So that's another area and the growth area that we're seeing is that touchscreen console kiosk is quite an important unit. And we've got a few projects in the new year whereby we've got interest in that particular product again. Picking up on something else that Tom mentioned as well is we do quite a lot of installs regarding video walls using conventional LCD, LED video walls, which we are happy to utilize from Allsee. We've also now extended that requirement now to include direct view LED. So whereby we were promoting the older technology, we're now finding that people are actually more up for going with direct view LED, and there's quite a few more projects coming up on that front as well. So that's where we are on that front. So that's speaking about products to find a useful and interesting. Like verticals, I touched on some of those where we're seeing growth areas. Fast food is just an exponential growth area. I think it just keeps going and going, and it's gone and gone sort of thing. Education, we're working with a number of colleges and academies. So again, that can be both signage screens and also video walls, as well as direct view LED media walls. We've also mentioned previously where we do a fair bit of work with local authorities, so councils where they're working with either recycling centres or bus stations and bus stops. So that's another big area. And another area I think which we found quite an interesting one that's grown quite large is property and the estate agency market. So these guys, there's quite a lot of requirement where they want to have proper digital moving into the 21st century, and they want things like ultra high brights, and they're looking at direct view LED as well. So these guys are really pushing the envelope, and it's a big area for us too. So hopefully that's helped you a little bit. That's just a little bit insight from me, Gary, at Big Solution.
Perfect. Thanks so much for that, Gary. I really appreciate you taking a couple of minutes to say a few words. Really do. And yeah, obviously, I want to congratulate you again on your tremendous growth over the last few years. And obviously, hopefully that continues for both of us. And again, thanks for the kind comments and feedback with regards to our pre-sales and post-sales support. So I really appreciate that, Gary. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for your help.
Thanks, Gary. Okay, so just going to move on now to just extending on what Gary was talking about, looking at a few kind of key verticals and growing verticals in the market. So back over to you, Cameron.
Definitely. I mean, yeah, one thing that's been quite interesting is the impacts of COVID and how it's changed the marketscape in many different markets as well. I think one thing that we've definitely seen is, and I think it's impacted many different aspects of life, is that people kind of saw a worst case scenario and they experienced it. You know, the whole risk of life and risk of, you know, stability kind of disappearing meant that people were willing to take risks because, well, what's the worst can happen? I've already experienced it. So that's meant that people are willing to take risks with new business ventures. And so we're seeing not just us and our partners entering into new verticals, but new verticals emerging. You know, there are restaurants that you wouldn't see because someone went, I'm going to try and run a business. I'm going to try and, you know, I'm going to do a pop-up shop. I'm going to do a pop-up of this. I'm going to, you know, do a VR center. I'm going to do all of these new different types of businesses. And so we saw these industries crop up, and these are new avenues for us to offer screens, and for, of course, you, our partners, to offer screens. One thing that we really saw, which was really interesting, was a lot of the new products that we brought out, we saw surprising reactions from the market in terms of where they went. A really good example of that would be indoor LED. So with indoor LED, especially the fine pitch LED that you see behind me, we brought it out, and you'll see from our spec sheets, we planned it for corporate. That's where we expected to see success, but that's not where we saw it. It went into so many other industries that we weren't really anticipating. I mean, especially this product behind me, this 138-inch fine pitch, the vast majority, I believe 70% of what we've sold have gone into sports bars. That's not what we planned. It was geared towards corporate. It's got screen sharing built in. It's all, everything we did in developing this product was geared towards that market. That's not the market it ended up in. We've seen sports bars, retail. We've seen loads of different areas that this has gone into that we weren't really anticipating. So, we are never going to predict it entirely correctly, and the market's always going to surprise us in certain ways. But yeah, we've definitely seen a lot of surprising aspects that have both come out of COVID and just generally the market itself reacting to the points that we make into it and the products that we bring into it.
Yeah, just to expand on that a little bit, Cameron. One thing that I think that Pig Solution have done really well, as well as many of our other partners in the UK and EU and overseas, is really kind of pinpointing what technology types are most relevant for different verticals. As Cameron said, this isn't always easy. Even we don't always get it right. But I think by offering such a broad kind of portfolio and really promoting to your customers, your end users, every different kind of technology type and type of solution and product that you can offer to them, really kind of keeping things as open as possible, it really does help. If you do need any kind of specific targeted marketing support on that and how to promote to your partners, you can speak to myself in the UK team. Arnie, who's on the call at the moment, he's got an extensive marketing background as well. You can get local marketing support from the EU office as well. So yeah, my not to sound like a broken record, but whether it's product or hardware or software input or feedback, please do be vocal. Let your account manager know, let myself know, let Bolly know, let Guillaume know. Really do be vocal. The more vocal you are, the more obviously, the more we can continue to expand our range and really target it to your customers' needs. And again, any support that you need, whether it's again commercial, technical, marketing, let your account manager know, let myself know, and we can do everything we can to kind of help you and really what you need right now.
Excellent. I said I was going to go into more detail, and I certainly am, because I absolutely love indoor LED. The projects that have been done for this have been incredibly interesting. In fact, I ended up actually helping with the install of a project. I believe that was back in July. Just a shortage of engineers on the day for the reseller, and I ended up coming in. Not that my expertise was heavily utilized. I was sat on the floor installing magnets, but it was certainly an interesting project. And that was, again, for an industry we don't expect. There's a sports bar that had a 6 meter by 2 meter indoor P1.8 LED solution. And what's really interesting there is it really brings up a way that you can utilize a stranger shape. I think they had an idea of, I want to have this space filled with a screen. And we went in and went, okay, great. But the skybox you're plugging into it is going to create a 16:9 rectangle. And this is not a 16:9 shape. So what we did there is, you can see from the image in the middle, they actually had the football playing through a skybox through the center, but then we had a media player, and one media player was running the two sides of the LED. So they could put up upcoming matches, upcoming fights, also drinks offers. There's a bar a few meters away from it, so they could put up drinks offers or any other offering that they want to do, or future events, they could put it up on the sides of the screen as well. So these are little things that we can help solve these projects too. This blog, which I'll put up on LinkedIn, we've done it as a company, but I'll post myself as well, talks about how we easily put together 16:9 aspect ratio solutions of LED using our indoor LED. So how many cabinets in the X and how many in the Y you need to do in order to keep it 16:9, and just plug in whatever you want and it's just going to work. So we're just trying to make things as plug and play and easy as possible. There's loads of different ways that this has been used. That project being one example. Retail, we're seeing, in the retail sector especially, the use for indoor LED for windows has become incredibly significant, especially for shopping centers. Large brands are doing it. You can see we did a project with one of them, as you can see there. I know big brands like Next are doing massive indoor LED in their windows with fine pitch, so it looks almost like LCD. You can see education institutions as well utilizing LED. It's growing out into absolutely every industry. Every industry can utilize this in some way. We don't have a picture of it here, but Battersea Power Station has been converted into a retail center, as I'm sure some people will be aware. One of the first stores there has our LED behind the counter as like a section, as kind of a interesting piece behind the counter as well. So all industries are going to be able to utilize this solution, and it's a really interesting project. The outcome is always fantastic. It's always mesmerizing. It really creates a statement piece wherever it's placed. Excellent. Should we move on from there, Tom?
So that kind of brings today's webinar to a close, really, unless anyone, obviously, I know we've had a few kind of comments along the way in the chat box, no real questions, but if anybody would like to ask any questions now, feel free to unmute yourself or again, use the chat box. I'm more than happy to deal with any questions that anybody has. One thing, one final point I would like to make, guys, is we sent out an email shot about 20 minutes ago, encouraging our partners to give us some feedback. So really, we really want to get your comments and thoughts and feedback as to how you think we've kind of performed this year, what we've been like as a partner. We really also have always really liked to see, you know, ourselves as a partner, not just a supplier, not just a hardware supplier, a software supplier, as a true partner. There'll be it's literally a one rating, one question, so it should only take a couple of minutes at max. And really, we're kind of looking more for constructive feedback and more for, you know, suggestions rather than as a way to kind of bolster our egos or anything like that. So any comments you've got, negative or positive, please feel free to use that forum. Again, you don't have to even put your name on if you want to do it anonymously. It really will help us to continue to improve our level of service, improve our product quality, and any other suggestions you want to make. We're more than happy to kind of take those on board. So please, I would encourage everyone to complete that survey. Like I say, it's one question. So yeah, please do so. So just to open it back up again, if anybody's got any questions, obviously we've still got a few minutes left on the webinar. So please feel free to either unmute yourself or use the chat box. Okay, guys, it doesn't seem like anybody has got any. Oh, there's one in the chat box. Just Ian.
Thank you, Ian.
Really impressed with the service and help from the team throughout the year. Thank you. Thanks for the feedback, Ian. You've been a great partner as well, Ian. Very cooperative, very collaborative, and I think, you know, I think it's kind of evident in the most successful partners that we've got, and really, you know, the partners from my perspective at least that have kind of had the best growth this year and achieved the most are the ones that really kind of work with us as a partner and kind of don't see us as purely a digital signage supplier. So thanks for the comments, Ian. Really appreciate that. Okay, guys. Well, if there's no other questions or comments, I'm going to end today's webinar and wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Again, if anybody's got any suggestions for other webinars, any product feedback, software feedback, anything at all, you can get in touch with your account manager, obviously your dedicated account manager, myself, Ollie, any of the team. We're always open to suggestions. There's also contact details there on screen, webinar@allsee-tech.com. So yeah, feel free to get in touch, guys.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone.
Cheers.
Thanks for everyone's time today. Really appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great Christmas, everybody.
Thank you.
too, mate.
Great Christmas.
Bye. Merry Christmas, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You too. Bye.